Hello guys, I'm UrbanFoxGamer and welcome to Blender 4.0. This video will help you transition from 3D Studio Max to Blender. Take note that this is a combination of Blender industry compatible controls as of version 4.0.2 and 3ds Max 2008 to 2014. Some of the controls that are not mentioned here can be looked up in the industry compatible controls by pressing F1, just like 3D Studio Max. This is just like a quick tutorial on how to get started in just modeling and just starting with Blender. So this is a fresh install of Blender 4.0. You can start by trying to get that vibe by changing the theme to Maya if you want. For our demonstration purposes, we're just going to default. Just hit continue and just click general. So right now here, this is the camera, the default cube, and simple light source. So if you want to get like a simple scene, every time you open Blender, highlight everything and hit delete. Now let's save this file every time you open the file. So by clicking file, default, save startup file. Make sure that you don't move the mouse, click save startup file. Now to set the controls is we go to here and edit preferences. Now go to Keymap, import, then you find the file that I will provide in the link below in the description, a Python script. You're going to import Blender for UrbanFoxGamer.py. Import key configurations. Now we hit here the burger icon. We save preferences to make sure. So we close that. You can now move the controls. First for camera, Alt middle mouse to pan, Alt left click to rotate, hit Alt right click to zoom, or just use the scroll wheel. Q, W, E, R is the basic tools. Q to select, W to move, E to rotate, and R to scale. We have additional controls to transform by pressing T and the C key, which is a Blender workflow. So in Blender, we have what we call the cursor. This is where our primitives will spawn or anything that you want to add. Now to move the cursor, you just hit the left click. Make sure that you are in the cursor mode. Now just left click everywhere or click drag to the place that you want to place it. Now if you want to search for a specific command, just press tab. Now I changed the redo and undo to Ctrl Y and Ctrl Z. I made sure it has Ctrl C and Ctrl V to have the copy paste. Now let's add an object to scene. So that's Shift A, that's a Blender default shortcut key that I introduced back to the industry compatible controls. So we are just going to add, for example, a torus. Upon adding the torus, there is an option at the bottom left. This is important to end every primitive or object that you add to the scene. You can now do the fine adjustments here. As you can see, it adds segments, changes the radius and the minor radius. Let's make a simple low poly donut. If you're happy with the options, click away, because once you do another option, it's now fully committed. But you can change some of the aspects here by pressing the N button, which is I added pack. Once you click away or do something else, it's already committed. So you have to be precise with the object that you want to add. Let me show you the example of repeat last command. So let's just say I want to move it on the y-axis to the left. That's my first command. By hitting semicolon, I'm repeating the last command. As you can see, this one is appearing again to do some finer adjustments. Now for other camera and viewing options, the quad view is added here as Alt W, but sadly it cannot be enterable. This is fixed and only go back to the default perspective. If you want to do an isolate selection, press Alt Q, and if you want to exit out, Alt Q again. If we highlight everything, if we press Z, it will zoom at selection. As you can see there, and I can still move. Let's zoom here. by pressing Z. If you want to do X-ray mode, Alt X and Alt X again to toggle out. If you want to go orthographic view, press U, or if you want to go back, press U again to perspective. To toggle the grid by pressing G. Now I added the F2, F3, F4. So F2 will unhide all those extra things. F3 will toggle wireframe mode, and F4 will toggle the material version of rendering of it. From the industry compatible controls, I moved the basic camera buttons to F5, F6, F7, F8. So we'll just go to front, right, and top. If you press Ctrl, it will go to the other options for the back, left, and bottom. If you press F8, it will go to the camera view. For that to appear, we create a camera. So Shift A to add the camera, we just click camera here. Now let's just say I want to move the camera here to my position. I added this Blender shortcut key that is not default in the industry compatible controls, so that's Ctrl Alt Numpad 0. You can see here, this is where it will get rendered. So if we move out of the way, the camera is now here. Now going back to the F8, it will snap back the camera. If you want to render, it's just like Max. Shift Q and it will render like so. It's just the two toruses in the background. For example, you want to add a light. This is a best example of where the item will spawn. Let's say I want to put the light here at the donut. So I'm pressing C, click at the donut, Shift A, I will put a point light near the donut. Now I'm going to move a little bit. By pressing W, I will move the light a little bit higher on the Z axis. Now if I do hit Shift Q, it will now have a lit part of the donut. Now for the cursor, once again, this is a Blender exclusive workflow. Again, for the cursor, this is where usually the elements that you want to add to the scene spawns, or this is where you want to snap objects to. C to go to cursor mode. Again, if you click everywhere or where do you want to put it in the scene, it will go there. Now if you want to reset the cursor, controls are Shift C. It will reset the cursor at the 0, 0 axis. If you want to snap the donut to the cursor, click the donut, make sure that you are in select mode, select the donut, Shift X, and we have entered snapping mode. So you can choose selection to cursor or cursor to selected. So in our case, I want the selection to cursor. Let's just say we want this the same as well. Shift X, selection to cursor. Now the donuts are now at the origin point. So if I move up, it's there. If you want to change the pivot point, make sure you are in object mode by pressing 4. So let's go to object. You can see here, set origin. You can set geometry to origin, origin to geometry, origin to 3D cursor. Again, as you can see here, my workflow is like this. Let's just say I want my origin point to this vertex. I go press 1, click this vertex, Shift X, I'm going to make the cursor to selected. Now the cursor is now into that vertex. Make sure that you go back to object mode and I press insert. So what happened there is I set my origin to cursor. That's my shortcut key, because I remember 3D Studio Max has an, if you press insert, you can now move the pivot point to anywhere you like. But in this workflow, this is usually how you set pivot points in Blender. Additional buttons on Blender is snapping. If you press X, it will toggle snap, as you can see here in the top side. You can change the snapping here by pressing the down arrow key here. It's either increment, vertex, edge, faces, volume, it's up to you. Now if you want to do like proportional editing, press B. If I move, you can change the influence of the proportional editing by left button and doing a scroll. So at this point, I'm going to show you the controls on creating 3D model in Blender. So it's either you go to layout tab or the modeling tab. It's up to you. So I'm going to go to modeling tab. Now make sure your cursor, let's just say the cursor is here, make sure it is at the center for good practice. So Shift C. Now I'm just press Q, go back to selection mode. So Shift A to add an element. So I'm going to add a box or a cube. So I'm just going to press N to show the transformation values here on the right side. This is the part you can change the dimension. As you can see, you can change the dimension here. So I'm just going to make it 10. I'm going to hit tab 5, tab 2. I'm just going to press enter. Now we have created an object here in the scene. So if you want to do like 3ds Max style of creation of a shape, you can go to the left side of the tools. You can see here there's an add cube. So you can see there are shortcut keys for creating that. So we are going to create a cylinder. Click drag the cylinder and the cursor will be like this. This indicating on what surface it is going to create. So we are going to create in the side of the box. So we are going to click drag. You can see the circle guide here is not perfect. So we are going to hold shift. So if we press alt, by the way, we are going to create a circle at where we first click. So if we do a combination of shift alt, in our case we are just going to hit shift. So I'm going to let go of the mouse and let go of the shift. So we are now just moving. So I'm going to click again to commit. So here in the bottom left, we are going to do some vertices. We're going to change it right now. This is the part that it needs to be changed. If you want to change the number of faces, you gotta do it now, because once you do another action or click away, there's no going back. So for this case, I just want to add like 8 vertices. So I'm happy with this. The fill type is here, so it's just an n-gon. Just click again. So we have one object here. So I'm just going to press Q. So in order to do a duplication, Ctrl D. We have duplicated. You can see at the bottom of the screen there is other like shortcut keys. For this case, I want to move it on the axis. So there's Y on the Y axis, Z on the Z axis, and X is on X axis, which what we wanted. Now we have that. Now click here on the side. How do we join these two? Click object 1, shift, click object 2, Ctrl J. We have one object now. Now how do you separate? We are going to go to edit mode by pressing 1, 2, 3, but in this case we are just going to go to face mode, which is 3. So click this, press the up arrow to crew selection, and right click, separate selection. It is now separated. So press 4 to go to object mode, and as you can see, it's now separated. I'm just going to combine these two again. Click object 1, shift, click object 2, Ctrl J. Now how to do a mirror? Before that, we must move the pivot point to the center, which is here at the center of the cursor. So as you can see, our gizmo is at the wheel, but we want it to go there. So I keybind the set origin to cursors, and that is with the key press of the insert. You can do other origin point options by going here on object, set origin, and there are other options here. What I did was origin to 3D cursor by pressing insert. That is the usual keybind of 3D Studio Max of affect pivot. If you click this one, we are now going to this icon. This is the modifier tab in 3ds Max. You can search that modifier, but what we need here is generate mirror. So right now we are now mirroring, but in a different axis. So we are going to mirror on the Z, and we're going to turn off at X. So there you go, we have 2 wheels. Now in order for this to be committed, just click here on the arrow and hit apply. Now this is now an object. The next one is loop cut. Now again, we are going to edit mode, because currently if you look at the top left, object mode. So 1, 2, 3 is the modes. So we need to go to edit mode, need to do a loop cut. That's Alt C. Click here, then we need to adjust to 2, then Q again, then click here. Now for that to be adjusted, we're just going to double click the line. So make sure we are in edge mode, double click, shift, double click. So double check if that is the right selection. Now we're going to hit R and move this like so. Now the next one is we're going to do an extrusion. So we're going to hit 3, click this space, shift E. and we can now extrude. There's a different kinds of extrusion by cycling through them by Ctrl E, and you can just click drag here on the side. Same goes with loop cut. There's different kinds of loop cuts. If there's like an arrow on the bottom right of the icon, that means there are different kinds of options. So for this one, we are just going to make it look like a car. So it's a matter of just moving some vertices and edges. So like so. Let's just say this is the front of the car. So this one, like so. A little bit like that. Press 3, like that, or like so. Okay, I'm going to push this upwards. Like that. And like that. So it's starting to look like a car. Now next is we're going to add a sunroof. So this is like a sports car. It needs a sunroof. We are going to use the inset face. So shift I to do an inset. You can see this little marching ants line thing or dotted line. It will appear like that. So let's just do it like so. You can adjust the thickness here, or as you can see, it does have different properties. After that, we can just do our custom refinement by just doing a scale like so. If you want, make it smaller. So this is like a sunroof, so it's supposed to be smaller. So I want a little extrusion like that. For the bevel, so let's make this one a little bit curvy. Let's go to edge by pressing 2. Now for bevel, let's Ctrl B. Let's incorrect edge. There you go. We're going to bevel that side. You can add segments here. As you can see, this bevel is the chamfer or the fillet, but I know those three are three different things, but they generally have the same concept of adding curvature to an edge. So you can affect like the vertex or the edge. There's a different types. There's the width, the segments, and the shape, yada yada yada. So if you're happy with the results, let's just say I just wanted to add two segments and click here. Up next is the knife tool. The knife tool is a tool that usually used for if you want to do like fix the end guns. You want to remove the end guns. So first of all, we need to isolate this one. How to do an isolation again? Alt Q. So we are left with the body of the car. So we're going to press 1. We're going to press K. Make sure this one has this checked. This one. Auto merge vertices. Click. Enter. Let's rotate. Alt left click. So click. Enter. So there are no more end guns. So we're going, that's the knife tool, that's the use case of the knife tool. You can click drag here like that, then hit enter. You can do it like that if you want to. You can like refine like a door here like that, click here like that. If you wanted to hit enter, you can do it like that. It's up to you. Next is lastly is the bridge tool and the fill tool. So let's for example, we are going to bridge this edge and this edge. So let's just say I'm going to delete this one. So delete faces. So let's just say that's the part. So I'm gonna press 2, click this edge, click this other edge, and I'm just going to press Shift B. So that's gonna bridge. If you want to add segments, there's a segments part here, a number of cuts. As you can see, you can add cuts. Now for the fill tool is just technically adding polygons. So if you press F, it will fill that hole. Going outside of isolation, we are pressing Alt Q. This is noticeable in the workflow if you press F. Let's just say this one, this wheels. I'm gonna delete this face. So 3, click this one, delete face. Now I'm just gonna press this by pressing 2, click this one, press F, F again. So what happens there is it's creating a quad relatively close to where you press the first edge. It's very fast to build quads, but it needs some guidance. So technically, you have now created a car. By the way, there are other uploader shortcut keys that I added because in the default industry compatible controls, they are not included, but these are the must-have shortcut keys that should be added in industry compatible controls. The poly tool is for the use case for that is for the topology workflow. The N is the toggle sidebar, and in under editing curves are splines in 3ds Max. So curves, there's Alt S for scale, Ctrl T for tilt. This is for usually creating hair. This is the tutorial that uses these shortcuts, and the skin modifier is Ctrl R for scale. If you wanted to do a UV map is a different tutorial which is going to link in the description. But here, if you want to like a very quick material, is just click the object, click new. That's the file. So to move here is just move the middle, pressing the middle mouse button. Click drag here. If you want to put the texture, this one, image texture, you can open a file. If you want to unlink this one, just hold Ctrl left click and it will get unlinked. So just delete. Let's just say we wanted a green car. You can have a green car if you wanted. For the black wheels, just click this one, new, click black, like so. There you go. On the top right, you can rename your models. So double click. Let's just say wheels. As much as possible, be organized with your fork. So the materials as well, you need to rename it. This is like body color, stuff like that. So whenever you like look for a texture, you have the right name and material. So that's the material. So this is like a brief one. Animation, this animation tab. Rendering, this is where you render. Usually like the frames here will be here. Compositing, Avid Touch compositing, geometry nodes, and scripting. Geometry nodes, there are other more proficient people that can teach you that. This is more like a node-based way to create 3D models. Geometry nodes. Scripting is, of course, if you want to do some automation or a plugin of your own, plug it here, scripting site. So for our case, we're just a beginner in like just creating models in 3D Studio Max. This is all I can teach, because the rest will be other people that are more proficient than me. But thank you for listening. Thank you for reaching the end of the video. I'd like to thank my patrons here, and the plugin or the Python script included in this video will be free in the Patreon link below. This is UrbanFoxGamer signing out.